Katobi Wastelanders, welcome to another episode of the Lost Holotapes, where we delve into the historical lore of the Fallout world in exquisite detail. Today we'll continue exploring the Mojave Wasteland and touch upon the period between the first battle of Hoover Dam and the Courier's Awakening. Despite only 5 years passing between these events, they proved incredibly eventful and defining for many regions from New California to the Midwest. As always, don't forget to support the project with likes, comments and subscriptions. These are the coal chunks in the furnace of our locomotive, and this locomotive is heading back into the Mojave Wasteland. Having failed at Hoover Dam, Caesar decides to turn his gaze eastward towards Colorado and sends legate Lanius to gather a new army. Approaching Colorado from the south, Lanius seizes the Cypher's tribe in Mesa Verde and Twin Mothers. In Dogtown, the Legion deals with the Dog Lords and Hangdogs. Most likely the Legion was strictly heading northeast, so Serid, Korath, Albuquerque, Reservation and Scout Pickers were not affected. Though, of course, this is just a mere speculation. Having established themselves in Denver, the Legion finds itself at the border of the Midwest Brotherhood of Steel. Both factions start a war with each other, with Denver becoming the main battleground. The Dead Horses clash with other local tribes, and Luzen are forced to leave their lands and settle in Zion Canyon, where they found the settlement of Eastern Virgin. 2278, Aaron Kimball is re-elected for a second presidential term of the NCR, but I don't think it came as a surprise to anyone. Another significant event occurs in the Mojave, the Bitter Springs Massacre. The NCR, relying on somewhat incorrect intelligence and very poor communication with headquarters, stages a massacre of the Great Hunt settlement, thinking it's Mongolian army camp. In reality, the army was at the time marching towards the Mojave outpost, and Bitter Springs turned out to be not a military base but a residential town inhabited mainly by women, children and the elderly. As a result, the Hunt suffered significant losses of families, and the Bitter Springs massacre traumatized not only them, but also NCR soldiers. Nevertheless, after seizing the settlement, the NCR establishes its own camp there. After the massacre, the remaining Hunts relocated to Red Rock Canyon and rebuilt. They engage in drug production and distribution in order to build economy. Nolan McNamara begins sending patrols from Hidden Valley for the first time after the defeat at Helios. However, due to his paranoia, he decides not to allow the patrols back, fearing they might be observed, and the scouts will simply lead enemies to their bunker. 2279, ghouls under the leadership of the glowing, yet not wild, Jason Bright settle at the Repcon factory and create a cult in his honor, the Bright Brotherhood. Believing that higher powers await them in space, they set their goal to repair a rocket to fly away. There is a change in power in Black Mountain. Super mutant Tabitha, supported by Nightkins and intellectually challenged super mutants, forces Marcus to leave the settlement. Marcus, along with some of the Black Mountain population, unwilling to shed blood, leaves and founds the settlement of Jacobstown on Mount Charleston. Jacobstown, based on a pre-war sanatorium, becomes a refuge for super mutants suffering from mental disorders, including Nightkin, who develops schizophrenia from constant stealth boy usage. Black Mountain is renamed into Tabitha. Using a radio station, Tabitha launches her radio show full of schizophrenic nonsense. Super mutants cause trouble by periodically descending from the mountain and preying on Brahmin and travelers. It's worth mentioning Fallout Nuka Break, a fan-made miniseries about the adventures of wanderers in the Mojave Wasteland setting. This story fits well into the lore, so it was decided to include it in the narrative. I consider it the best fan-made series of all time, so I strongly recommend those who haven't seen it to watch it before I start spoiling. Trust me, it's worth it. I'll leave a link to the playlist in the description.
What?
I thought you said you were going to give us some cover. Hell, it was your idea.
And you didn't even need it.
I mean, we had to kill them all, and now they're all dead?
Oh, free shit. Oh, yeah.
The plot revolves around the journey of 4 wanderers, Vault 10 dweller Tweak, Ghoul Ben Eldridge, escaped slave Scarlet, and wanderer James Eldridge posing as an NCR ranger. The events take place somewhere between 2277 and 2281. The story begins with James' adventurer who wanted to find Vault 7 from which his ancestors emerged. To obtain the P-Boy with the vault's coordinates, James had to neutralize the Scorpions gang by causing a brawl at the Oxhead Meat Bar and take from them a trophy, a severed wanderer's hand with a device attached. Ben Eldridge, wandering the Mojave Wasteland for 200 years, met Tweak somewhere in between 2278 and 2280. During their travels through the Sonoran Desert, they encountered the cult of Len Swallow. Len was a Legion veteran, but his disobedience was not appreciated by Caesar. he managed to leave the Legion and go his own way, creating a cult in his honor. Leon believed he was a god, and according to his own prophecy, his son was supposed to rule all the West. To find the perfect partner, he abducted and bought slaves in bulk, including in the Mojave, and took them to Sonora. This is how he found Scarlet. However, upon learning about the prophecy, she attempted to escape. Trying to deprive her of a place to return to, Leon blew up her hometown from his fat man. As it turned out, there was still a Brotherhood of Steel squad in the town, most of whom perished. Apparently this was one of the Brotherhood remnants surviving the Sunburst operation. One night, the sole surviving member of this Brotherhood group, Paladin Ron, rescues Scarlet from Leon's captivity. They wander together for a while, then go their separate ways. Ron founds the settlement of Locre on the basis of an old ammunition factory, while Scarlet is captured again by Leon near Boulder City and transported back to Sonora. Vic and Ben accidentally stumble upon Leon's camp and, causing a commotion, rescue Scarlet, after which the trio returns to the Mojave Wasteland. Leon sets out after them in pursuit, hiring various raider groups to hunt them down. Along the way, the trio encounters ambushes by such bands and mercenary groups as Tanner Company and the John Jimmy James Gang, but they deal with them as well. The trio takes courier orders and ends up in Good Springs, from where they'll head west into the Mesquite Valley to the settlement of Eastwood. The mayor of the town makes a very important clarification: it's NCR territory, although the town may have originally been its own. This means that the NCR has encircled its territory from both the top through Ashton and from the bottom through Long 15. Leon founds a camp in the valley, and meanwhile the Nuka group goes into the wasteland for a small job, where they fall into an ambush by Ghoul Larry's gang. But like with previous seekers of easy prey, they deal with them. However, they weren't destined to return to the city. Leon destroyed Eastwood with a nuclear charge. By a twist of fate, the group joined by James scatters, but after some time they reunite in Locre. To fulfill the prophecy, Leon needed radiation-free land, which was found right next to Locre. Leon prepares his army for an attack, while Locre, learning about Leon's plans, prepares for a defense. A siege of the settlement occurs, which Leon loses and he dies during the battle. An early happy ending ensues, everyone is happy and celebrates, and the refreshed Nuka group, along with Larry and some slave girl who replaced the deceased Ben and the separated James, rides off into the sunset to meet new adventures in a new season. But unfortunately, there won't be a new season.
Only thing I hate worse than a ghoul is a ranger.
I'm not a ranger.
I'm not a ghoul. It's worth a shot.
A brief lyrical digression. Many expected a continuation of this series, and it could have happened. It had phenomenal success back then, and the production quality for a fan-made film was incredible. However, the Wayside Creation Studio, whose backbone consisted of the actors who were also the writers, decorators, producers, and generally jacks of all trades on the set, perished. To put it briefly, formally, the studio was bought by One Production Enterprise during the Kickstarter campaign for a new film, Legends of Grimlock. As soon as the sum was collected, they took all the money for themselves and sidelined the team from work, taking their scripts and other creative works without paying them anything. Instead of them, the producers started hiring other actors. The guys decided not to drag themselves through the courts and years of battling with scammers, but simply went into the wasteland. Since then, it is said that the studio released only one commercial for Converse, and that's about it. I dug into the internet and found a huge article telling the whole story of the studio's internal workings, how they formed, how they achieved success, how the films were produced, who played what role, not only as an actor, but as a member of the creative community, and how everything was destroyed by one person in the team who managed to seize both rights and finances and managerial monopoly. A very sad story, once again proving why concentration of power in the hands of one person is complete crap. Even the second season of Nuka Break was created not thanks to, but despite everything, and through gritted teeth. It's all very sad. For those interested, the link to the article will be in the description.
Now you owe me.
Now we're even.
Yeah. Thank you. I mean, you really took care.
But we need to return from the real world to the wasteland. There are no courts in the Mojave, everything is decided by skillfully distributing experience points and the arsenal of weapons in the backpack. By 2281, the large city of Sacktown emerges on the ruins of Sacramento. and in it the Happy Trails Caravan Company is formed. Also in California, a small private caravan company, Cassidy Caravan, is founded, managed by Rose Cassidy, the daughter of one of the Chosen One's companions in Fallout 2. And in the Mojave, Griffin Weirs and Durable Dawn Caravans are founded. In the depths of NCR territory, the cities of Irvine and Oak Creek are founded. In the Mojave, the NCR continues to build up its army and establish additional outposts and camps. Thus, ranger stations Alpha, Beta, Charlie, Delta, Echo, Foxtrot, the camp at El Dorado substation, and Camp Searchlight appear on the map. Thanks to the lore of the Battle for South mod, we will get additional exposition on Camp Searchlight, but we'll talk about it in a video dedicated to this mod. Near Searchlight, the Matthews Animal Husbandry Farm is established. Civilians and military personnel of the NCR begin to gather in Freeside and the Strip, spending and wasting their caps. AirTech appears, an NCR shelter for those who have become poor, having lost everything in the casinos. The Legion attempts to recruit other factions in the region to counter the NCR. Thus, they make a secret alliance with the Murtas, according to which they are supposed to capture the Strip while the NCR and Mr. House Securitrons are busy at Hoover Dam. The Huns also make a pact with the Legion. They promise to fight against the NCR and then join the Legion. By this time, the Huns had lost their sense of identity and they didn't really care who they were and with whom they sided, as long as it was against the NCR. Fiends have proliferated exponentially and have become a real threat in the region. The NCR couldn't deal with them because of the Legion. The only ones the Fiends don't attack are the Huns, and then only because they supply them with drugs. The Legion also has an arrangement with the Fiends. The Legion provides them with intelligence on the NCR, and they rob their caravans, weaken them and don't interfere. But Caesar hates their drug-based culture and intends to betray and wipe them out when the war is over, instead of the promised integration. The Legion, exploring the Wasteland, reached as far as Yuma, where the Black Vultures used to live and from where they brought artillery pieces to the dam. It is unknown if they established themselves there, but if they did, they would have controlled a much larger territory and might have attempted to break through to Dayglow. Not far from the dam, Fortification Hill appears as a Caesar's prime camp, and a little further away, the Legate's camp who returned from Colorado. To Mr. Howe's great disappointment, the fort sits right above the Securitron army bunker, making it practically impossible for everyone to reach there and activate them. Nevertheless, luck awaited House. His search teams finally found the platinum chip in the vaults of the Ship Bank in San Francisco, and House hired the Mojave Express Company to deliver it. The lucky one was Courier number 6. A branch of the followers of the Apocalypse appears in the region, establishing a base at the Mormon Fort, a clinic on the southern edge of the city, and an outpost to the east. Things weren't going very well for them, as the NCR began to persecute them and tried to push them out of the state, so it can be considered that their base in the Bondyards was abandoned. Westside taps into the NCR aqueduct and begins stealing water for itself. Also in the sewers between Westside and North Vegas, which is essentially the residential part of the city, the Greasers gang forms, causing trouble for the residents. To the west of Vegas, Tribal Village appears. Unfortunately, the tribe remained nameless. Somewhere near Camp McCarran, the Scorpions gang sets up at the Monte Carlo suits. They often fight with the Fiends, but being much weaker, they constantly lose to them. By 2281, the Vipers had taken control of several locations, such as the ruins of Bonnie Springs, the Horowitz farmstead, a Reddit farmstead, and the Eastern Searchlight gold mine. According to the Tales from Nurina mod series, Bonnie Springs was a regular settlement until 2280, which was destroyed by a cannibal tribe, but we'll talk about that in the corresponding episodes dedicated to this series. Various groups of prospectors operate in the region. They built a scavenger platform on Lake Mead, where they possibly engaged in fishing and scavenging trash from the lake. But this platform had to be abandoned after the influx of lake lurks. They also founded a small settlement called Prospector's Den. There was also a camp of squatters in the Mesquite Mountains, but it was destroyed by Rod Scorpions. Jackals settled in the Nevada Highway Patrol Station and set up a camp on the roadside leading to Nipton. It is known that by 2281, the Abbey was indeed annexed to the NCR. Well, someday it had to happen. According to Fallout Frontier, during the war between the NCR and the Brotherhood, 6 Brotherhood bunkers were destroyed, 4 of which the Brotherhood blew up to prevent them from being captured. It is also claimed that the Brotherhood destroyed the NCR's gold reserves, possibly by attacking the mines in Redding. It is also claimed that as a result the NCR dollar was devalued and people returned to using caps, but this is unlikely to be true as the NCR dollar is actively used throughout the state and in the Mojave. It is known that the city of Jericho in Utah is active. In the previous episode, we already detailed the events related to the destruction of New Canaan during the siege by the White Legs, as well as the logic of distributing events over a time frame. Based on that logic, in the winter of 2281, the divide was supposed to occur. Disappointed by his involvement in the destruction of the city, Ulysses deserted from the Legion and settled in Ashton. But he couldn't enjoy peaceful life long. The Legion learned about the NCR outpost on the northwest edge and wanted to cut off an important logistics route. A Legion squad attacked the settlement, which the NCR was forced to defend. Meanwhile, the courier was supposed to deliver a package from Navarro base to Ashton, which turned out to be a missile launch control device. The NCR wanted to use the arsenal, but they needed to decipher the codes and understand how the device worked, so they wanted to show it to the local tribes who might know something. However, the NCR didn't know that the device they found already had active launch codes. As soon as the courier entered the city amidst the NCR and Legion battle, the missiles received a signal from the device and exploded. A huge underground arsenal exploded along with the cities of Ashton and Hopeville, creating a massive canyon and burying tribes, NCR and the Legion under tons of earth and building debris. Those who were fortunate enough to survive were irradiated by winds and turned into bitter ghouls filled with hatred for all living things. Since they retained some degree of intelligence, allowing them to use weapons and armor and distinguish friend from foe, technically the place became a ghoul city. The courier survived thanks to their super mutant heritage, although, like Deadpool, he had to regenerate his body almost completely. Ulysses also miraculously survived and upon recovery delved even deeper into agonizing reflections on the constant deaths of civilizations due to senseless wars. He moved to the Mojave, where he began to live on his own ranch, working as a courier for Mojave Express. The highly radioactive and ghost-infested Death Valley of the 23rd century was dubbed the Divide, and nobody dared to venture there anymore, although reconnaissance raids were sometimes undertaken by the NCR. After the Boomer's departure in 2234, the security of Vault 34 locks the gear doors and doesn't allow anyone else to leave. This was a very counterintuitive decision given the overcrowding problem. By 2281, when a Soviet two-room communal apartment for 3 families might have seemed like comfortable housing, it was still necessary to open the valve and release the excess people from the reservoir. But the Vault Tech personally discovered that the door no longer could be opened. Either the design of the vault was such or something jammed it. Realizing that it was technically impossible to leave their abode, see the sun and run barefoot on the grass, the inhabitants staged a new riot in an attempt to overthrow the overseer for his short-sighted decisions. As a result of the civil war, there was much destruction in the vault, including damage to the reactor. Radiation leaked and the locked dwellers gullified. A small group of survivors managed to lock themselves in some room that could only be opened from the outside. They had nothing left but to wait for a random savior. Radiation from the vault seeped into the soil and water, contaminating the crops of a nearby NCR farm. Before the events of the game, the Prospector's den was attacked and captured by the Jackals. The Brotherhood still sits in Hidden Valley and McNamara is afraid to leave. Before this, he sent out several scout squads and they all died, including those near Nellis. McNamara wouldn't let them back in anyway, fearing they would lead the NCR. Although the NCR currently has no interest in the Brotherhood. Not everyone in the Brotherhood supports this state of affairs and a conspiracy is brewing in the bunker. The Legion realized that it was time to act and began to infiltrate the Mojave. They established Cottonwood Cove on the western bank of the Colorado River, which is used as a slave crossing camp to the east across the river, and in principle a forward base from which the Legion began to raid. In particular, they constantly raided supply convoys to Camp Searchlight. General Lee Oliver, the commander of the NCR army in the Mojave, decided that an additional outpost was needed between Camp Forlorn Hope and Searchlight to close the gap between the camps. The NCR found the town of Nelson. Unfortunately, they did not manage to establish themselves there. Acting on a tip from a spy within the NCR ranks, the Legion attacked the camp. Out of 3 dozen NCR soldiers, 3 were left alive and crucified in such a way that they were visible from Camp Forlorn Hope. The Legion established their outpost in Nelson, and the NCR fears to attack it, worrying about the lives of the crucified soldiers. Also in the vicinity of Nelson, a small auxiliary camp is established in the Techatikup mine, where the Legion sometimes holds prisoners after raids. At the same time, the Legion sabotaged Searchlight. Before the war, a convoy passed through the city, transporting radioactive waste to the burial site. During the war, the police ordered to park 2 trucks in the fire department of the city, while the 3rd truck made it to Cottonwood Cove. For 200 years, the barrels with radiation were covered with dust. Camp Searchlight was the thorn in the Legion's side. Excellent visibility, fortifications due to the ruins of the city, a large garrison. Attacking head-on was a suicidal idea. Thanks to the impeccable reconnaissance, the Legion learned about the battles. Two legionnaires unsealed the barrels at the cost of their lives, and Searchlight was instantly irradiated and wiped out. Many NCR soldiers gullified immediately into a feral state. In addition, there were adults from the Matthews farm at the camp. They all perished too. The child left alone the farm received a deep trauma and in a fit of paranoia burned down the farm with himself and the animals inside. Suddenly, demoralized, inadequately equipped, functioning in complete administrative chaos, cut off of regular supply deliveries, and losing people in patrols and legion raids, Camp Forlorn Hope found itself at the forefront of the Eastern Front. The Vipers' camp in Bonnie Springs is destroyed by Casdors. It happens. The Crimson Caravan is in conflict with the Gunrunners to the extent that one of the Caravanneers attempted to shoot a Gunrunner robot merchant, and in turn the Gunrunners imposed a ban on selling their weapons to all Crimson Caravan employees. The NCR tries to play virtuous and sets up a food distribution point in Freeside. Initially they distribute it to both the settlers and the local residents. They try to earn reputation points as they are not well liked in Freeside. Pacer, the right hand of the king, provokes the NCR into direct armed conflict behind his back by beating up the negotiators sent by the NCR, knowing that the king will try to establish friendly relations with the NCR. The problem for the NCR do not end there. There are already Legion spies at Camp McCarran, and it is constantly being raided by Finns. With the Legion's increasing activity towards the dam and Vegas, more personnel had to be withdrawn. Particular soldiers guarding the prison were transferred from the NCR prison. Trouble didn't take long to arrive. By September, there was a riot in the prison, where the inmates slaughtered the remaining guards and turned the prison into their fortress. They formed the raider gang called the Powder Gangers. However, after gaining their freedom, the inmates couldn't collectively decide what to do next and ended up splintering into several separate factions, some of which even engaged in conflicts with each other. One large faction led by one of the instigators of the riot, Samuel Cook, finds Vault 19, where they temporarily settled, preparing to wage guerrilla warfare against the NCR. While the NCR couldn't decide whether to retake the prison or focus on the Legion, the Powder Gangers based in the prison dispersed into the wasteland around their fortress, forming several small camps. North, east, west and south. They raid the mining town of Sloan, which was involved in mining limestone for NCR, and steal their dynamite supplies. Without dynamite, Sloan couldn't continue mining ore, and a pack of deathclaws began to proliferate in the temporarily abandoned quarry. Since the quarry is right next to Interstate 15, their presence blocked the possibility of safe passage towards New Vegas from the south, which was very inconvenient for both the NCR and traders. Due to the deathclaws and the inability to mine ore, the activity of the Boulder City factory was paralyzed, and people began to leave it until only one bartender remained. Trade at Novak, on the other hand, improved due to the increased flow of people through the bypass highway I-95. The economy also went up in Nipton after the mayor of the town organized a brothel, offering its services to the Powder Gangers during the day and the NCR at night. The storyline mod working on the Chain Gang significantly expands the lore related to both the Powder Gangers and the Jackals and Vipers. In the mod's lore, the Powder Ganger story is a complex event intertwined with local geopolitics, unlike the version in Fallout New Vegas, where it is limited to the quest to capture the prison by the NCR and its squabbles in the Vault 19. Therefore, although the lore of Fallout New Vegas will be mentioned within the framework of this episode, the full story related to the NCR prison, Samuel Cook's gang, the Jackals and the Vipers will be presented in a separate episode dedicated to the mode. Recognizing the threat posed by the Powder Gangers, one family from Prim leaves the town in September and establishes a small trading post called 188 Trading Post at the intersection of Highway 93 and 95. By October, the 188 trading post becomes an important trading point in the region as, due to the death clause, Highway 95 becomes the only safe route to Vegas. According to the Word Trash mod, from the logs on the bridge located just south of the Mojave outpost, it is known that the Cassidy caravan arrived in the Mojave on September 26 of 2281, and Cassidy even got into a fight with a soldier who tried to hook up with her. The Crimson Caravan Division, under the leadership of Alice McLafferty, hires the Van Graff family to attack rival caravans, making it appear that the Raiders or Brotherhood of Steel are attacking them. Thus, in late September or early October, the Cassidy Caravan, Griffin Caravan and the Durable Dunn Caravan were destroyed. Let's consider these small companies' lives to be over. In addition to this, the Crimson Caravan steals blueprints and some important documents from the Gunrunners branch in the Mojave. Indeed, caravans is a very dirty business. In October, the NCR established Camp Guardian on the mountain overlooking Lake Mead to monitor Legion movements from the north. On October 9th, 10th, Benny, the leader of the chairman, and the hired Hans set out to intercept the courier towards Good Springs. Benny, having learned all about Mr. House's plans thanks to a glitched robot, wanted to steal the platinum chip to gain full control of the Securitrons himself, and thus usurp power in Vegas. On the way, this group encounters the Fiends, who had just slaughtered a nameless tribe's village. The Huns and the Fiends begin a battle, in which, despite losses, the Huns emerge victorious. According to the War Trash mode, on October 10th, the courier crosses the border between California and the Mojave at the checkpoint near the Mojave outpost, and wasting no time, immediately heads north. On October 11th, Benny and the Huns abduct the courier in Good Springs, and Benny executes him, taking the platinum chip. But the courier, despite being shot in the head, survives due to his supermutant heritage, even being buried in a grave. He is unearthed by Securitron sent by House and is treated by the local doctor, Doc Mitchell. In addition to courier number 6, there were several other couriers from the Mojave Express Company delivering decoys to divert attention. But Benny knew exactly who he needed, as he had access to all the information Robert House worked with. On October 12th, a squad led by Joe Cobb, which is a part of Eddie's crew in the NCR prison, attacks a Crimson Caravan near Good Springs. In addition to Sloan, the Powder Gangers also attack and capture the town of Prim. They execute the sheriff and several residents, while the remaining survivors are forced to take shelter in the casino building and hold off the attackers. On the outskirts of the town, an NCR camp is located, but they are not ready to go rescue the town, as their personnel is quite limited. A group of Nightkin led by Davison leaves Jacobstown after learning about the pre-war Stealth Boy shipment at Repcon. Arriving at Repcon and settling in the Repcon underground, blocking the Bright Brotherhood's access to the rocket launch pad, the super mutants encounter ghouls and, failing to immediately find common ground, massacre half of the Brotherhood before they manage to barricade themselves in the offices. And with that, we conclude the third episode dedicated to Fallout New Vegas. In the next episode, we will delve into the actual gameplay lore of the legendary game. Don't forget to support the project with likes, comments, subscriptions, and views of the entire series of videos. And that's it for today. Don't buy Jet from W's Caravaneers, although it's better not to buy it at all. See you in the Wastelands, Wanderers. End of the holotape.